I'm not going to sit here and tell you that David Haye is not funny sometimes because that would be a lie. Yeah, the guy is funny, at least to me, quite often actually, when he starts talking trash about other fighters. And in this particular instance, he's talking about Anthony Joshua. And the way he describes the situation is amusing. Again, to me anyway. I'm going to quote David Haye directly here. He's talking about Joshua. He says, I see holes in him every time I see him. I see it in his footwork, in his punch evasion or lack of. I see it in his speed of punches, tempo, rhythm. I see it in every part. The way he responds to being punched, the way he responds when punches are thrown at him. All these things I put into my computer of a brain and it tallies up to a 2 or 3 round knockout, and there's nothing he can do to counteract that. Not right now, not if he does what he's been doing. If he does something I've never seen before in his next fights against Molina and against Klitschko, then I might have to recalculate. But right now, everything I've seen up until now tells me that it's a fun night for me. It's one I could actually enjoy and have a fun fight with somebody who is as robotic as he is. When his paymasters, he goes on to say, he's only going to put Anthony Joshua in the ring with me. He's talking about Eddie Hearn here. He's only going to put Anthony Joshua in the ring with me when he feels that he's got a chance. When his paymasters, Sky, say, Eddie, you've spoon-fed enough heavyweights we've never heard of. You've earned plenty of dough. Now it's time to step up the level and have some big fights. Eddie Hearn has a solid relationship with Sky, and I'm sure he will want to keep them happy. It's like HBO or Showtime. And when they want a big fight for Mayweather of Pacquiao, it gets delivered. Myself and him could comfortably fill Wembley Stadium with smash box office records. It would be absolutely huge. Eddie Hearn and Joshua's paymaster, Sky Sports, they want to cash in on their investment. If he is as good as they say he is, then a fight against a 36-year-old who's been in the twilight of his career, who's in the twilight of his career, shouldn't be an issue and should be good business for them. So those are the words of David Haye talking about IBF heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua. I like the stuff he talked about, calculations and all that kind of stuff. It was funny. That's funny stuff. How many of you actually agree with David Haye here? Do you think he could take Joshua out early like that? I mean, we know that he's got the power to, but would he be able to land those big shots on Joshua early doors and get an early victory? How likely do you think that would be? And those of you who think that Anthony Joshua would beat David Haye, and that might even be the minority, at least when it comes to hardcore boxing fans, how many of you think he could knock David Haye out, or he would knock David Haye out? How many of you think that would be the most likely outcome? Or maybe you think he would beat him on points. I don't know. How do you see the fight looking? Would it be similar to Klitschko against David Haye, where Andy Joshua's obviously playing the role of Klitschko and just trying to walk David Haye down behind the jab, but being very careful not to take a big right hand in response? Or would it be more action-packed? Maybe Andy Joshua's jab and his defensive construct is nowhere near as sophisticated or as well honed and fine-tuned as Klitschko's, and therefore he wouldn't even be able to fight the fight that Klitschko fought against David Haye if he wanted to. Maybe it would inevitably turn out to be far more action-packed than Haye Klitschko. And in which case, who would that favor? David Haye or Anthony Joshua? Interesting stuff. Hopefully we get to see Joshua fight David Haye, maybe in 2017, if he gets past Molina, if he gets past Klitschko, and that's a very big if, because I still think the Klitschko fight is massively dangerous for Anthony Joshua. I'm not saying he can't win it, but when you look at the vast experience that Vladimir Klitschko has, I know experience is overrated sometimes. Talent often trumps experience. But Anthony Joshua is so inexperienced. I mean, it's not even close in terms of the experience level of Joshua and Klitschko. And Klitschko has been fighting at a high level up until very recently. Well, up until his last fight, he was fighting at the very highest level. And he hasn't fought since. He's had a hiatus since then. So how much will the layoff affect a 40 or 41-year-old Vladimir Klitschko? We don't know. I'm sure Eddie Hearn and the Joshua people are going to hope that it's affected him a lot in a negative way. We'll find out if the Klitschko fight actually goes ahead. But I still think it's dangerous. Klitschko didn't take a beating in the Fury fight. He lost, yes, and he won't be in the greatest place mentally. But he knows going in against Joshua, he's in there with somebody who's very inexperienced, not only in terms of fights, but also inexperienced in terms of the mental aspect of the game. When they sit across from each other at the gloves are off, Joshua and Klitschko, and you know Klitschko likes to stare in his opponent's eyes and really stare them down. If you've noticed that, it's a big part of what Klitschko does. And you know he has, I believe, a degree in psychology or whatever it is. So he makes a big part of his psychological game staring the guy down and showing the guy that he's confident and trying to unsettle the other guy, trying to put doubts in the other guy's head. Will that work with somebody as inexperienced and young and green as Andy Joshua? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll have to find out. But yeah, I think the Klitschko fight is very dangerous. If he does get past that, depending on the manner of the victory and how good Klitschko looks, because if Klitschko looks good but still gets comprehensively beaten by Joshua, that might change people's view on how they see a Joshua-David Haye fight going. They might be more confident that Joshua will actually beat David Haye, even though Haye's style is nothing like Klitschko's. It's a totally different equation. Haye is more of a reflexes guy. He's obviously shorter, more mobile, faster. His punches are more explosive, and that's not to say Vladimir's are not explosive, because they are, but Haye's even more explosive than Vladimir. So it's a different kind of fight. Doesn't necessarily mean if Joshua beats Klitschko, he can also beat Haye. Styles really do make fights, but certainly if he beats Klitschko in good fashion, it will give a lot of people more confidence in Joshua that he can go ahead and take on and beat the likes of David Haye. So hopefully I've given you guys some food for thought, and I'll be interested to hear what your thoughts are exactly in the comment section below. All right? It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.